Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a look at the WLMouse Strider. I just got this in about an hour ago, and thank you WLMouse for sending it out. I have not tested this in-game yet, but I will show you guys a little bit of the unboxing and talk about the aesthetic and what it compares to, and a video covering the Kurosun Shogun because I know this does come out tomorrow, so I want to give you guys my thoughts and opinions. I've probably dumped like more than 40 hours on this thing, climbing in Marvel Rivals. I think it's a great pad and very versatile depending on the skate that you use as well will change the experience. Now, the WLMouse Strider definitely impressed me out of the box. Taking this out and seeing the aesthetic in person, it is super, super clean, especially if you're okay with magnesium and you're okay with those cutouts. The coloration here does color shift in the light depending on how the light is hitting it. I love Mouse 1 and Mouse 2 looks a little bit tribal with the aesthetic here. And again, the sides, although it is kind of a little indented here, the sides do feel pretty good to me. I don't really recognize those cutouts much, but if you are digging your fingers in, you might run into instances where your right side fingers are getting in there a little bit. Overall, I think this one came with Omron Opticals. The switches are super well implemented, and the build quality here, just out of the box, like this thing feels even sturdier than the Beast X and the Beast Max. So they've done a really good job, and I think magnesium is WLMouse's strong suit. I think this will probably be better received than the Ying, especially if you are an XM2 lover. Now, I haven't really done a in-hand comparison yet myself with the XM2 and the X2H, but to me, just like eyeballing it, it seems very similar to the XM2, but I want to show you guys what is in the box. You do get a little placard, and on the placard comes the information about their website, their support email, and Discord. You got do-it-yourself grips here that do have a bit of a cool design on them, like the form-fitted skates. Look super, super cool. They seem like nice grips, just kind of eyeballing them. You get an extra set of skates, a cable, and the do-it-yourself dots. So you get a lot of goodies, fairly typical unboxing experience from WLMouse, what we see from things like the Sword X, and the box even looking very similar to the same size and shape as the Sword X. In the hand, it's going to be more similar to the XM2, I think, just eyeballing it. And going back and forth, it does feel rather similar to me, just like eyeballing it. It seems like there might be less meat on the back left and back right in comparison to the XM2. It feels in the hand maybe a hair shorter in terms of overall length, but my hand does seem to hit the right side ledge right about where it does on the XM2. This probably, to me, feels very, very close. Probably the closest thing to an XM1 or XM2 clone that I've tested to date. And I think the mouse is definitely going to, it feels obviously more akin to an XM2 than the X2H, which the X2H is a little bit more lenient for me on the right side where I place my hand, and the backside feeling a little bit more bulbous, whereas this just feels much more similar to the XM2, and you guys can see the comparison here with all three. So far, like, this definitely has a shot at being a top mouse, especially for me, again, because I'm maining things right now that fit this size, shape, bracket, feel. The Vaxi Sora X2H XM2 being in my main rotation right now. And so far, the weight balance, and build quality here feel super, super good. So I'm going to get this thing in game. But I want to show you guys a bit of the Kurosun Shogun in comparison to a Lethal Saturn Pro. So for this portion of the video, when I talk about the Kurosun, this is a very diverse pad, and I think a little bit more diverse depending on the skate that you choose compared to most mouse pads. Again, it's a very smooth feeling mouse pad, one that is smoother in terms of its abrasive feeling on the skin, comparing it to a Zero or a Saturn Pro that I have here on the left. I did move to the Owie Powie skates on the bottom of my WLMouse Strider. I like the fact that these base cutouts are actually quite large, so I can move to these larger skates. And with these Owie Powie skates, it actually does make this pad feel like a smooth, speedier pad. It doesn't feel like a full-blown Raiden with these skates, but it does feel more speedy. Dynamic is fast and open, and then static movements are actually very fast and open as well. Now, the nice thing about this pad is that with your, let's say, default Pulsar skates, it feels like a middle down the road balance pad to me. Dynamic is nice, open, and airy. I don't feel any magnetism. I don't feel any tug. And to me, X and Y feeling fairly consistent. A little bit of a differential, but fairly consistent. And then static movements feeling, again, like it has a little bit more of that control when I want to slow down and get that more precise, fine-tuned, minute movement. A nice balance with default skates. When I'm moving to something like the Jade Air Dots, which are obviously smaller than the Owie Powie, it does get a little bit more like balanced with a tick towards speed. It does feel more on the fast side as well. And again, those static movements with these skates feeling a little bit more controlled than the larger dots on the Strider right now. Again, though, like dynamic is nice, open, very smooth. You don't feel any texture really on the skates themselves, and just a very smooth, buttery experience on the hand as well. The foam on this pad is more hard than something like a Saturn Pro. And to me, I like that. It gives a little bit more consistency overall, and instead of kind of digging in and getting that variation in speed, I'm able to kind of get that variation instead of digging in by just changing out the skates. Black Fox skates on my XM2, these are more controlled skates, and with the more controlled skates, like it really makes this pad feel super controlled. It's not necessarily a mud pad where you have that magnetized effect or slowdown on your mouse, but it definitely is on the slower side of things, and I would say not balanced literally in that control territory. So you get, again, this diversity of speeds that you can get depending on your skates. Dynamic feels like there's quite a bit more friction, feels slower innately, and then static movements do feel quite slow and controlled, with these skates feeling a bit more of like a mud effect, but like not like that tug, just in terms of like its default innate speed. And to just show you guys a little example of a glide test with all these different skates between the Saturn Pro and the Kurosun Shogun, I think, again, the closest in general speed of the Shogun, especially comparing the different skates, will be pretty close to the Saturn Pro. It does feel like with some of these skates, there's a bit more control on the Shogun, but overall, like super, super close. You can see the default skates here on the Pulsar. And I would say with the Black Fox skates, feeling, again, the most controlled, you can see it really does pick up a lot of additional friction on both of these pads, but I would say feeling a bit more controlled and slow on the Shogun with these particular skates. So again, very diverse pads. It really is going to be dependent on who you are looking at for a review with respect to the overall speed and feel of the pad. It changes pretty drastically, just like the Saturn does, depending on your skate. So again, the main differences between the Saturn Pro and something like the Shogun is going to be that foam density, this feeling harder and quite a bit more consistent in terms of its overall plush. Think like something more along the lines of a mid, but it's still 4 mil thick, and you still can get some plush on there, and it's quite a comfortable pad to have your hand on. And the other difference will be the base as well, this almost having a mirrored finish, but this pad just does not move. Like when this is on your desk, it does not move. The white stitching around the pad looks great, and it is about even with the surface itself. And overall, the surface does seem to be rather consistent. Again, I think I said earlier I have probably like 40 hours on this pad. It's probably closer between 60 and 80 hours with how much time I put on it. You can see like a few dirt marks where there's some discoloration on the pad, but overall it has remained very consistent, and I just don't really notice any slowdown or slow spots on the pad. So it seems like a consistent, with most skates leaning, to me, more balanced. And then depending on if you go for a controlled skate, it can be very controlled. So guys, that is going to be it for this one. I have a lot more mouse pads and things to test, including skates and other things. The things that really strike me as being stellar products, I will get some dedicated reviews out to you guys, but for most mouse pads, we'll probably keep it in a roundup format. So expect some things on skates, on pads, and right now focusing a lot on some audio headphones and IEMs. That is it for this one, though, guys. I will update you guys on the Strider right now. Again, just aesthetically, the mouse just looks absolutely fantastic, and I am impressed with it so far. If anybody actually does pick up the Strider or is interested in the Strider, I think it releases early February. Keep track of their Twitter, and Code Fresh will get you a little bit of savings. That's going to be it for this one, guys. I hope it helped. If it did, please leave a sub to the channel. See you guys in the next review. Peace.